While there are lows that can be considered dangerous, none come close to those that had to be transported after one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Such a delicate task demanded machines capable of being on the front line, of entering the heart of hell and coming out alive. The answer did not come in the form of huge tanks or futuristic units, but rather from old Soviet trucks turned into fortresses on wheels, ready to face an unprecedented challenge. We are close to reaching 4 decades since the world was shaken by one of the most chilling tragedies of modern history, the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. After the explosion of Reactor 4, an enormous radioactive cloud swept across the continent, leaving behind a landscape of chaos and fear. At the same time, hundreds of tons of radioactive debris and material were scattered throughout the nuclear plant, becoming a major safety problem not only for Chernobyl but for the entire Asian and European region. While this was happening as authorities tried to contain the disaster by all possible means, out of the desolation emerged a fleet of vehicles ready to face an invisible but deadly threat: radiation. Moving tons of radioactive debris was not a task to be taken lightly, especially because many of these fragments emitted radiation above 10 sieverts per hour, a lethal amount even after just a few minutes of exposure. Conventional trucks simply could not do the job, as it was necessary to have vehicles capable of withstanding lethal levels of radiation themselves while protecting their drivers as effectively as possible. It was then that the need for a special truck led to the birth of one of the most unique vehicles ever built. The emergency call came in June 1986. The assignment was as clear as it was terrifying: to build special trucks capable of transporting radioactive waste from the heart of the reactor to specialized disposal sites. The weight of this challenge fell on the engineers of the Kraz automotive plant in Kremenchuk, Ukraine. Under the command of engineering director Viktor Kolyavko, the entire development team got to work with the constant thought that they were racing against the clock. Trying to reduce production times by avoiding developing a special unit from scratch, they used a Kraz 256B1 truck as the base, a robust but outdated model produced since the Soviet era. Although it lacked comfort and its cabin was little more than a wooden structure covered with metal, its reliability in extreme terrain conditions made it the best option. Turning it into an apocalypse machine, the most notable feature was the integration of a unique cabin. This was not just an additional feature, but was built with 3mm steel panels, between which was a lead core distributed in layers, reaching 30mm on the floor, 25mm on the sides, and 12mm on the roof, while the rear, which was most exposed to intense radiation, had almost 50mm of thickness. Its only window, installed in the front for the driver's visibility, was built with a block of radiation-resistant glass, with a dark yellowish tint, measuring only 300 by 300 millimeters and with a thickness of 75 millimeters. This caused the interior of the cabin to remain austere, small, and dark, forcing the driver to see everything around them through a series of 4 mirrors: 2 side mirrors and 2 rear mirrors, all hemispherical. The weight of all these implementations meant that the cabin, designed for a single occupant, exceeded 3 tons, which posed new structural challenges for the truck, which, remember, was not originally designed for this job. To compensate for this, the chassis was reinforced, the suspension on the left side was adjusted, and the tire pressure on that side was increased. While driving this machine, a loud hum was always heard from the upper part. This belonged to the air ventilation and filtration system, responsible for constantly supplying clean air to the hermetically sealed cabin. Although this system was powered directly by the engine generator, it also incorporated a group of 4 batteries that allowed it to function when the truck was off or in case of a breakdown. Other important changes included replacing most of the mechanical controls with hydropneumatic and electric pneumatic systems, such as the clutch, now operated hydropneumatically, and the middle axle brakes, actuated by compressed air chambers. Curiously, emergency teams expected all cleanup tasks to be completed before winter arrived, something that obviously did not happen. Therefore, the CRAS engineers decided not to implement any heating system to avoid further complicating the production of these trucks and thinking that fewer systems would mean fewer possible failures. Just 2 weeks after starting the construction of this prototype, the engineers were already conducting tests. An important challenge was the adaptation of the drivers, since they only had a small window and 4 mirrors for visibility. However, after performing several basic maneuvers, simulating the approach to an excavator using the local vegetation as reference, the designated drivers soon managed to get used to it. In the following days, the construction of 7 additional trucks was completed, which were sent directly to the exclusion zone. The workers spared no effort, working 2 to even 3 shifts per day with the sole purpose of saving lives. In total, 18 of these armored Titans were built and deployed in just 5 weeks, a truly extraordinary achievement considering the extreme circumstances under which they were produced. A curious fact is that originally the Soviet government wanted these machines to be as discreet as possible, so as not to alarm the population, requesting that a conventional cabin be placed over the protective capsule to make it look like a regular truck. Although this was attempted, the idea was quickly discarded because it proved to be highly detrimental, both for visibility and for the additional weight that the trucks already had to bear. Arriving at the exclusion zone, the task of these units was to transport all the materials and debris, many even coming from the reactor itself, to the temporary waste storage facilities in Prelysna. These facilities were hastily built, originally intended to be just a few simple modules made of thick concrete blocks and equipped with a remote-controlled crane for unloading. The problem was that their construction was so poor that only 2 modules could be used, which later had a roof added to prevent rain from spreading contamination. Unfortunately, the area is very restricted, and it is difficult to obtain film material about it. To carry out these tasks, the modified CRAS trucks had the help of the IMR and IMR-2 engineering tanks, responsible for picking up the radioactive debris to load it into the dump bodies of the armored Titans. Additionally, although these units were undoubtedly the most emblematic, they were not the only vehicles used to try to remove debris. In some cases, an improvised covering was attempted in the form of armor over conventional trucks, although the most striking participation was that of the PTS-2 amphibious transport units. These were equipped with an air filtration system and a lead coating as a division between the cabin and the cargo area. However, due to the complexity of trying to decontaminate them, only 2 of these units were used, which even continue to be stored today, emitting exorbitant amounts of radiation. Although their work was extremely vital, the final fate of these vehicles is shrouded in mystery. While some reports suggest that these trucks were buried in the gigantic waste dumps of Buryakivka, there are versions that point to a new destination, as chilling or even more so than the exclusion zone itself. It is said that these units were transferred to the plutonium reprocessing plants in Mayak, Russia. According to these rumors, the trucks were adapted for their new tasks, including modifications such as the addition of a separate seat for a dosimetrist, responsible for measuring radiation in real time. They are said to have been mainly used to confine another site of the same degree of danger, Lake Karachay, a liquid waste dump so radioactive that just 1 hour of exposure near its shores could be lethal. Currently, although the whereabouts of these trucks is uncertain, transport work within the Chernobyl nuclear power plant continues. While it is true that radiation levels have drastically decreased, the need for trucks prepared to withstand this invisible danger is still present, which is why the CRAS automotive plant itself has developed new, more prepared specialized units. Although a protective capsule is no longer necessary, these trucks are built with special metals that are easy to decontaminate. In addition, they incorporate prevention systems that prevent any radioactive dust or particles from escaping the cargo compartment. The Chernobyl apocalypse trucks were built for a mission as unique as it was dangerous. Each of these units was not just a tool in the midst of the disaster, but symbols of ingenuity, hope, and bravery. Today, these trucks rest buried, dismantled, or simply forgotten, but their story will always be a testament to what it means to act under chaos, as a protest for survival. While the machines in Chernobyl continue to evolve, their purpose will always be the same: to protect us from the lurking danger hidden behind the barbed wires in the exclusion zone.